Hi, my name's Virginia England, and I'm a senior studying art and journalism. It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Tony Silber, manager of Red 7 Media and publisher of Folio.
Thank you for the brief introduction. The brief is always better. So Samir asked me to talk about, to sort of do a celebration of print launches, and considering that we have the world's largest ever panel at any conference in history, that's a really good thing, right? Because it means print is thriving. So we are going to make it really interactive. I have a bunch of questions because what we see going on in the magazine industry is really interesting. And my panel comes at a really interesting time because Reed and Jim just had this conversation around what value is in media and where the media industry is going, and much of it focused on digital, a lot of it focused on disruption. And here we have a session now that's going to take us back a little bit. I guess back is not a pejorative term in this context, but we're going to look at print and why people launch print magazines, what they do with them, what their expectations are, how they serve their audiences, and how they look at their businesses, and we'll do it in a really fundamental way. I think what we're going to do, rather than me introducing each panelist, I'm just going to ask you each to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about your business. Let's just do a few minutes each, maybe 90 seconds each. Yeah, and then I will definitely time it, and then we'll zap people, and we'll do all that stuff. Yeah, so let's start right now.
Hi, I'm Julie Wilson. I'm the founder, publisher, dishwasher, whatever it takes, of Story Magazine. We're a regional title. We cover sort of the under-the-radar stories about Kentucky, somewhat of a lifestyle magazine, long-format journalism, very visually oriented. And we've been around for a year and a half now.
Samir, this might not extend all. Oh, I see. Okay, it does. It's fine. It's good. No, I think we have another one too, so we're good.
Oh, good. Fantastic. I'm Jordana Megonigal. I'm editor-in-chief of Business Black Box magazine. We're a regional business publication in upstate South Carolina, mostly the Greenville, Spartanburg, and Anderson areas. We actually launched we started the business in 2008, launched in 2009, but we didn't do it right until 2012. So I guess that's how I'm considered a new launch.
Hi, I'm Carol Kicinski. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Simply Gluten-Free magazine. We're an international meaning we're in Canada and some other English-speaking countries. Magazine, that's a gluten-free lifestyle magazine. I went the opposite way. I started digital, and we've now expanded into print.
Hello, I'm Thom Kicinski, and I'm publishing Her magazine. I'm the man under the thumb, as I refer myself to, and we basically started a platform in 2007 that was digital, and built up a large consumer base, and then took it to a magazine, and which is kind of reversing the trend of everything else. And now we're getting a chance to explore avenues of going back into digital, expanding digital markets and using the magazine as a platform to do that.
Good morning. My name's Kelly Waldrop with Covey Rise Magazine. We are a sporting lifestyle magazine, very much a lifestyle magazine through primarily our niche is upland bird hunting. So we have just gone to press with our 1-year anniversary issue. So we're bi-monthly, 6 issues to print, and 1 is at press as we speak. So thank you. Good to be here.
Hi,
Hi there, I'm Megan Smith. I'm channeling my inner Kathleen Turner this morning. So I own Cake and Whiskey magazine. It's the sweet and spirited world of business. And it's a print publication. You guys have one in your blue bag. I guess we're considered international. Cake and Whiskey started from events. I had started a women's event in Lexington, where I'm from, where we eat cake, drink whiskey, and talk shop. And from that, there are now events nationwide. And the magazine was birthed out of just this. Every time I would go to the bookstore and stand there and look at the business section, and every business book had like either an older man, and if there was a woman, a man was piggyback carrying her on the beach or something. She was always the support system. And so I love things like W Magazine, just really gorgeous, photography and great story writing. And I was missing that and I think a lot of women who love business. And so anyhow, I thought I'd start my own, and it's been going really well. And we don't take on advertisers right now. We're working with some corporations on some strategic partnerships. Instead of going the traditional route, we don't do distribution per se on bookstore shelves. We are at a lot of women's conferences around the world. I actually just came from France. I was there as a guest of Cartier for the Women's Initiative Awards. And anyhow, it's going really well, and it's super fun.
I'm Scott Coopwood. I'm the owner of Coopwood Publishing Group. We are a North Mississippi based publishing concern. We publish a Sunday newspaper in my hometown of Cleveland, Mississippi, in the Delta, the Cleveland Current. We also publish Delta Business Journal, which is our business magazine for North Mississippi, and then our flagship is Delta Magazine, which is 10 years old now, and is a lifestyle publication of the Mississippi Delta, where we cover everything from homes to food to hunting to blues to you name it. And this is the second media company I've launched. The first media company I launched in 1999. I had that in 1989. I had that until 97. That was in Jackson, Mississippi, a magazine and a business journal there. We sold those, excuse me, and I wanted to come back home to the Delta where I'd grown up. And we just rolled the dice and started a business journal. And from there we launched all these other things. We also publish 2 e-newsletters. So our combined circulation with everything we do is readership-wise would be 200,000 roughly. So that's what we do, and we're kind of small-town publishers, but yet big-time dreams, and so that's who we are.
My name is Craig Chapman, and I produce a television and digital series called Real Food, Real Kitchens that is also about to be Real Food, Real Kitchens Resorts and Vacations and Real Food, Real Kitchens International. It's a series about family, food, culture, and history, where we tell the story of a dish and the family and culture behind that dish through sort of a documentary series. There's no host. The guest drives the entire show. And we just recently published our first magazine back in August. On August 6th is when it was on newsstands.
Great, thank you. That's a really eclectic group of publishers and some really interesting stories. I guess I'll start it off with this. Reed describes a magazine industry that's really not even accurately called a magazine industry anymore. It's more like magazine media. It's being disrupted on multiple fronts. It's revenue challenged. It's got innovators coming from outside the market doing different things. It's got technology companies coming in and massively generating revenue that used to be magazine company and newspaper company revenue. So what we really have is 2 magazine industries. One is the industry that I see from my perspective at Folio, which is sort of what Reed and Jim were describing, and the other that we see at Folio as well is this sort of smaller, huge swath of companies that are entrepreneurial in nature, that are print focused and do really well. And for whatever reason, they're not as disrupted. And I want to explore that a little bit. So I guess the first question I'd ask is from a business perspective and not from an aesthetic perspective, because we get the value of magazines and print, and it's kind of a lot of fun to kick back with a good copy of The Atlantic or the Smithsonian or whatever and enjoy it on a train or on an airplane. So I want to understand from a business perspective what the opportunity is in print for you and why you do that. Because we know the manufacturing costs are much more expensive. We know distribution is much more expensive. And we have to use digital means to get that distribution. So, and we know that advertisers are, migrating to Google and Facebook and all those places in, TripAdvisor, whatever it is, in astonishing numbers. So, why print?
Oh, wow. Okay. Why print? I always like to compare our print magazine with the demographic of people who love vinyl versus CDs or, hitting iTunes on a regular basis. They're a devoted following, and they're very passionate and very vocal, which is good for us. That they're essentially, our feet on the street telling people about our magazine. And so I think advertisers in our demographic, at least, are seeing that there are people who are very interested still in sitting with a publication and digging more in depth than what you can get on a tablet version. So our advertisers are actually trying to seek out that market of people who are passionate and essentially look inward locally to purchase and spend their money. And so that's who we're trying to reach at this point.
I think what we should do is we have a couple of mics, and let's just make this a little bit of a conversation, because going down a row of 8 people and then back up the other side of the row is just going to be a little bit cumbersome. So you all should just feel free to chime in, raise your hand. I'll get you the mic. There's one down there, and everybody in the audience as well. If you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get your question answered. I'm just interested again, whether there's provably more revenue in some of these businesses that you have in print rather than in other media.
I can tell you from my perspective why print. I'm my own demographic. I've been gluten-free for 20 years. I fit the survey of the average consumer of gluten-free products. And I actually didn't want to start a magazine. I was perfectly happy with my blog and then the website. But I wanted to buy a magazine that was not alternative, because I'm not an alternative type person. I'm not really, I don't wear Birkenstocks, that sort of thing. So, and that was the sort of the paper that the magazines that were gluten-free were printed on inexpensive paper, and they just weren't the kind of magazine I wanted to buy. Now, my husband, our publisher, is more of the business end, but that's to answer the question, why print? That was from my perspective, and then he can tell you about the revenue part.
First off, we were rather fortunate in that she already had a website that was well established. And so when she decided she wanted to do this magazine that caused me to get up at 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning every day instead of my old 7 o'clock routine, I was able to pick up the phone and in 11 days sell 25 pages of advertising, because we already had a base of faithful advertisers, knew us, knew her reputation, and knew that what we said was going to occur. Why they bought into our magazine, I'm still not quite sure, because we had zero distribution really, other than nutritionalists and subscribers that we didn't have one signed up yet. But they all bought in, and it was really based on confidence on us. And then, so starting from that, we were then able to build a magazine that escalated from its first print run a year ago of 18,000. We just turned in the print order for 75,000 for our January-February issue, and the advertising has increased substantially as well. So why? We're making profit. I decided early on I was never going to. First of all, I guess I need to lay the groundwork, and never published a thing in our life. She's never been an editor-in-chief in her life. prior to this experience. And so we really both just jumped into something that we didn't know anything about. So to me, I had to make money. I was very surprised that somebody would sell a subscription as at a loss, as an example. And in our industry, it seems to be predominant. I was very surprised that someone would, give away advertising space, all this added value stuff. What do you mean? So I was very surprised at these things. And so as we built each of the three, whether it was subscriptions or it was ad sales or it was selling in the stores, I was unwilling to lose a dime in any one of them. I figured I had to make money in every one of them. And so we structure it that way, and we've grown well, and it has been profitable for us.
What's the current circulation?
When you say current circulation, we're printing 75,000. Distributed in all Whole Foods, all Barnes & Noble, about 2,500 health food stores, Canada and America, Books A Million, Wegmans, Kroger's, Safeway, Target, Safeway. I said Safeway, yeah. Publix. Just went into all Publix, 1,072 stores. Walmart Canada.
You saw the economics of that, building that distribution and of selling ad pages in print as more favorable than staying digital, or because there's an opportunity cost in everything you do. So you could do a newsletter and generate revenue that way. You could do e-commerce, whatever it is, or you could sell a print ad page.
Yeah, well, I think like I said, we already had that base, so we were able to draw off of that and kind of move into an area that you could say was under revenueized for us, and now we've been able to expand in that. And yeah.
Cool. Scott?
Yeah, I'm just old school, Tony. I love print, and it just I guess I was telling Roy Ryman this last night. I go to work because I want to get excited about something. I want to have a fun time. Of course, I have to make a living. But to me, I hate to say this, it sounds very bizarre, but that's not my first goal. My first goal is to be excited about what I do and to be happy, and just can't wait to get to the office every day. And I feel sorry for so many of my friends that don't have that kind of life, So first and foremost is happiness for me and excitement, and that's print. Now, digital, in my town of 22,000 people, and in my region of probably 200,000 or 300,000, again, we're in Mississippi, where someone told me a week ago that I think only 40% of Mississippi is hooked up to the internet. So I'm not yet fighting that digital world that many of y'all may be into. Now, let's take the example of my Sunday newspaper. We have a daily in my town, Monday through Friday, and they publish at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Their daily circulations is maybe 3,000 or 4,000. I have an e-newsletter that goes out every morning at 11 o'clock to 9,700 people. So we absolutely kill the daily paper. If there's a murder or a car wreck or Miss Sally is celebrating her 100th birthday, we've got it. And we present it to you in sort of a news TV, newscast kind of deal, and then we'll have 2 or 3 printed articles as well. That thing is so popular you cannot believe it. But for us to sell ads on it, we might get $75 or $100, but that's about the top of the pricing on something like that. So see, I've got to sell a lot of that to make any money. So we just don't even push that anymore because it's too much of a hassle. And then we find that the people that buy those $75 or $100 ads, those are the ones that actually stretch you out for 3 or 4 months and to pay you or may not pay you. So we are in the digital world, but I'm not excited about it, and we have not found a way to really make money in it.
$25 a month over 3 months. That's a pretty hefty payment. So
That's right.
You probably don't want those advertisers. Here's my question to you, Scott, though, and the other folks who do local, and many of you do. So you have like an Amazon local. I get 2 or 3 emails a day now from Amazon local. We know that Facebook has an unbelievable ability to target local buyers. Google does. Yelp, right? So why? It seems counterintuitive to me that city and regional brands, print brands, are not tapping into that dynamic. You know, I want to spend New Year's Eve in New York City, so I've been using TripAdvisor to get the hotels and the ratings and all that stuff.
Right.
So.
Well, you just give me an idea there, Tony. I appreciate that very much. I don't know. We haven't explored any of that kind of thing on our news. I also want to say that our business journal is a monthly business journal, about 12,000 in circulation. But on Wednesdays, to stay in front of our audience and our people in our region, we actually send an e-newsletter out every Wednesday to 37,000 people in our region on business news. You know, so I have a platform where I could probably do a lot of things you're talking about. We just haven't explored it, and what we have explored has just been nickels and dimes, not much. You know, so.
And I've heard that consistently. We do a survey in Folio every year on city and regional magazine economics, and it's always been that. And it's just, you wonder if, you know, it's a case of, you know, the proverbial frog in the pot boiling, and it doesn't realize that the market turned left and you kept going straight, to use a whole bunch of different metaphors. Sorry. So anyway, other thoughts from our regional panelists? Jordana?
I think one thing that we discovered, and it actually kind of shaped our model that we developed last year, is that when you're selling digital versus print versus an e-blast versus all these things, you give them a lot of options. And what we found is that it logged down payments. It kind of bogged down contracts. You know, you're trying to get a contract for a web tile as opposed to spending our energy on bigger things. And so what we developed is a package of sorts. We knew that the end goal for any advertiser is to have their brand seen and to have it be top of mind at the end of the day. And so for us, it was compiling everything that we offered: social media, events, an e-blast, web advertising, and the print piece, and packaging that together at one price. So it wasn't about signing a small contract or, well, I'd rather have this instead of this. It took the negotiation out of it. No, here's a package that will get you to all of our readers across all formats and will get you the best top of mind that we can give you. We put one price on it that was non-negotiable, and we sold 18 in 6 months at a very, very high price that gave us a very, very large, a much larger margin than we had prior. So I think that was easier for us. Just seeing the end game for the customer was a big deal for us because it completely changed our revenue model.
Changed in a single-digit kind of way, or changed in a really fundamental way where print is, you know, just one channel and the other ones are?
It changed for us fundamental way because the only way for an advertiser to get into print, they can buy an e-blast, they can buy something else separately, kind of a la carte, but the only way to get into print is to buy into the package. And what we did on top of that is made each partnership industry exclusive. So we only have one bank partner, we only have one hospital partner, and that I think is what really pushed it, because their goal, at the end of the day, the advertiser's goal, who's where your money is, their goal is to get in front of the most people and the most eyes without diverting to their competition. Mm-hmm. So that's something that we have found really worked for us.
Is that what you were referring to when you said in 2012 you finally got it right?
Yes, that's exactly. We kind of, at that point, we had looked at our model and we said the current publishing structure for advertising is not working. Not that it's not working in general, it just wasn't working for us. And so we really took about a month through everything that we knew out the window. Our sister company is a marketing firm, so we really had a lot of brainstorming as to what works when you're buying advertising. What are you looking for? What are you trying to achieve? Why aren't we providing that to our customers? If we know that's what they want and that's what they need, why are we playing this roundabout game of, well, buy this. No, okay, I can't afford this. We'll buy this one. Well, I can't afford that one. Well, it just creates this system and a really bad relationship that we just weren't interested in.
Yep.
So.
Kelly, what are you seeing in the emergence of digital channels? And the reason I ask you in particular is because we had a keynoter at Media Next last week, Farm Journal Media, And you'd think that Farm Journal Media would be really pure old school, and they're not. They have an app where I think they have 70,000 subscriptions at like $10 a month or something like that. And you know, you can do the math on that, whatever it turns out to be. There's a reason I'm a journalist, not a statistician. But it's, you know, it's that app and that subscription model is really interesting. And you know, the farmers are out in the field all day, and your audience is out hunting. So, what are you seeing in terms of digital, print, those kinds of dynamics?
And that's a good analogy. I would say from our standpoint, what we tried to do at Covey Rise was, you know, we just didn't jump into it. We didn't make any fast failures. We looked at it, did a lot of research. What we found was that our demographic, our reader, was still very much embedded in print.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a look at our cover, you know, we don't dress it up with timely material that dates it. We want it to very much be a coffee table magazine, and that's one thing that our advertisers really love, mm-hmm. is the fact that it's going to stick around and not have a shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
From a business model that we looked at, that's what we saw successful, and everybody's like, well, print is dying. Well, our demographic's going to be here for several more years. So I disagree. And, you know, it's kind of funny when you sit around, I guess, and we're analyzing where we are versus digital. I would be more concerned if I was in the TV business with YouTube channels and free media streaming, yep. than I would in our business in magazines.
Yeah, and music as well. I mean, those businesses are much more disrupted than magazines are.
You know, we see the future of it, and we want to get it right. We just have not found a way to produce the same sort of quality and content and deliver that mm-hmm. content in a digital platform that you can in a good quality print. And I don't think our advertisers are all excited about, you know, something being digitally flashed in front of their face and then forgotten for months to come.
Yep. You may not have intended this, but part of the way you responded to the question suggested that you see your business as on a clock. You know, you mentioned that your demographic is still around and will be for several more years. Do you see it that way, or is it a sustainable model for you? And you know, when your kids take over the business or whatever it is.
Well, let me answer that by saying, 10 years from now, none of us have any idea what's going to be going on. So, as far as
Bob Sachs does. Let it be noted.
Yeah. So, you know, and if you think you know what's going on, you're probably just thinking that you know. So, I would just answer that by saying I think we all see that clock. It's just we don't know how fast the second hand's moving. So, you know, I like the idea of fast failures, but, you know, in all honesty, you know, a fast failure, one mistake can bring a whole company down. We just want to do things methodically and move the second hand mm-hmm. at our own pace rather than somebody else's.
Yeah, that's the really fascinating part of what I see at Folio is, you know, like I said, on the one hand, you have all these emerging media models and many companies, print legacy companies, struggling to respond to them. And on the other hand, you have all the people on this panel who have these nice, solid businesses. They know how to do it, and they execute well on it, and they just chug along. It's really a fascinating time to be in media. Bob, you had a question?
Yeah. We've heard several excellent speakers this morning to set the foundation for you guys in a path to success. You heard about Mars Communications, a print product who is now diversified into various alternate revenue streams. Reed discussed about the value of having a print focus. I got it.
You got it, Bob? Can everybody hear him? He usually doesn't have a problem with, but just checking.
Reed suggested that what attracts him is print products that have alternative revenue streams. It seems to me each of you have a really brilliant niche that now that your print is established or almost established, I'd be curious, what alternate revenue streams do you think you can develop? Each one of you surely can. I can name 10 for any one of you guys. And I think that after you get your product
you need alternative revenue streams. Can you discuss what that might be for you guys? Julie?
We actually found out, that our audience, our demographic, is very interested in culture and music, but not so much what's already known, what's already out there. That's really our basis, is showing and helping people discover what's unique and new about Kentucky that they didn't know before. So we've started an event called Story Sessions, where we go to different towns around Kentucky, and we do a live stream, a live performance of a band that's up and coming from that area. Very much sort of like a storyteller situation, where we ask questions in between songs and get the audience engaged. We have a small studio audience, and then we also stream it live, and so people who can't attend can actually watch it live. So we're getting title sponsors for that as a revenue stream. It's very small right now. We've actually started our second one is tomorrow. So that's been really receptive. I think that's really spoken to our readership.
Do you see a significant revenue stream there?
Not yet. To be perfectly honest, but that's part of the process and we're very similar in offering the package model. If you are a sponsor of Story Sessions, that includes a certain print ad, a certain ad on our website, social media exposure, that kind of thing.
Because, back to my point about opportunity cost and Kelly's observation about one misstep could cost you the company. But it seems like events are a natural extension for regional media. So it seems like it should be close to a slam dunk. So hopefully it's,
We're at the basket, so.
Okay.
I think for us too, our expanding as we're looking into next year and beyond, events are a huge part of that. We are going from 3 events this year to having possibly 17 next year. One of those is a monthly series, so it's all good. We are looking at an app, not a flip book type model, but is there something that we can take the business community? Is there a business plan generator, or is there something that we can really bring to the business community as a whole that might take us to more of a national base? We are looking at a couple different markets to expand to, because we are regional, so it's kind of easy with our new model to pack up and drop into a new city. So we're constantly looking for more money. So if it's out there, we're going to find it eventually. So,
Craig?
With Real Food, Real Kitchens, the initial concept was just a television show. My background is in television and film production, and also in magazine publishing. So when I started thinking more about the television series, it became apparent that it could become more of a brand, where we had several different TV shows that were spinoffs of the original. The magazine was part of that branding idea that I had, and of course cookbooks. There's all kinds of things you could do with Real Food, Real Kitchens, kitchenware, partnerships, all kinds of different ways to spin the Real Food, Real Kitchens brand off to make additional money. So that's kind of the route that I'm going in with this brand.
Do any of you see, going from 90% print to, 10% and 10% miscellaneous other stuff to 50% print and 50% events or awards or, e-newsletters or whatever it is?
Well, and we wanted, about 3 years ago, we started looking for other revenue streams. So we jumped off into publishing books that are very exciting but very dangerous as well. It was $50,000 to $60,000 to print the books that we publish. We publish books once a year that we can sell to our subscribers in the region. 3 years in a row, and it's gone real well so far. We're ahead of the game. We just published our fourth one was just published a month ago. We try to publish our books around November so everyone runs to buy them for the holidays and that sort of thing. So that has gone real well.
Compilations? What are that's the content?
Yes, right. We'll take. Our first book was a cookbook, The Food of the Mississippi Delta, and so that went over real well. The second book was a gigantic coffee table book for the Delta of pictorial scenes and images and all that. The book we've just published is a book on holiday decorating and somewhat recipes and that. And then actually in 2011 we had a gigantic Mississippi River flood up and down the Mississippi River Valley, just devastated part of our region of Mississippi. So we put out a book on that actually with images, 300 images of flood and all that. So all that has sold very well and is still selling well. Even the books we published 3 years ago are still selling every month. So we got into that. We too are going to get into events in 2014, and we have 4 events scheduled per quarter, and we're going to see how that goes. One is a cultural and blues heritage tour of the Mississippi Delta. We're going to try to sign up 100 people at $2,500 each, and we're working on that. We're going to do some kind of a food type 3-day deal in the Delta in the summer, and then in the fall we're going to turn around and we're going to do the next Christmas we're going to do a holiday 2-day expo where everybody buys booths all over the Mississippi Delta, North Mississippi. But the fourth one escapes me. We're doing a tour. We're doing
How about weddings? Weddings would seem to be an opportunity.
Well, that's what the holiday thing will be in November 2014, that sort of thing. So we've gotten into some of those things. So.
I think for us, in terms of additional revenue stream, Cake and Whiskey again started as events. And the great thing for us is I don't have to go out and plan these. We have women that contact us in different cities and say, I really want to connect with business women in my city, and I love what you're doing, so can I start mine? So we actually have like a 20-page PDF that we get them started with. We give them some sort of coaching and guidance so that they can start their own Cake and Whiskey gathering in their city. So we actually have not monetized those yet, and that's something we will do in the future. With Cake and Whiskey, I hate to say it, but I'm really not in it for the money. And I think I've seen where so many business magazines geared towards women have not been successful and have fallen by the wayside. And there is such a buzz and an excitement about what Cake and Whiskey is and what we can be that I just really careful to not take on advertisers for the sake of just needing some money in my bank account right now. I'm sure my husband doesn't agree with that, but for me, I don't want other people to make decisions for what this really could be, because our community is growing and the women are really excited, all the way from a hair bow maker on Etsy to, some of the women that subscribe to our magazine are some of the richest women in the world. And I love that we can juxtapose and bring all of these women together for the common good of just encouraging each other to reach goals. So in terms of, for us, the revenue stream for events is really organic the way it's happening, and I love it, and I know eventually we will make money at it. And I'm okay with waiting and just seeing this incubator start to come together. And I imagine down the road we'll have women at farmers markets around the world that have their Cake and Whiskey tote, and we'll definitely be, I see us as a brand and kind of going that way.
Speaking of, Scott, I'll get back to you in 1 second. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the fourth thing we're doing is a fall fashion thing. Just occurred, I'm into fashion, so that Anyway, and it's going to be a fall fashion guide. A separate publication will accompany that. So that's our fourth thing.
Thanks for filling us in. So speaking of branding. So we have Story Magazine, which is a regional publication. We have Cake and Whiskey, which is also, it's for women business. We have Business Black Box, which I think I can figure out, but branding is interesting. On the one hand, you have, our state, North Carolina. That's really literal and it's really easy to understand. But Cake and Whiskey is it's got kind of a cool sound to it. It's like Garden and Gun, which once you figure it out, it is a really cool name. But so branding is an issue, though. Have you found that advertisers don't get, or is that a business challenge of yours, any of you, that advertisers struggle with the name because they're not exactly sure who it's for? And it could be for Cake and Whiskey or for gluten-free. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
They get ours.
We know what that's about.
I think for us, our name is very random. And for first couple of years, a lot of people assumed that it was a minority business magazine, which was awesome. We're like, great. think what you want. But I think for us, it's less important that the advertiser really gets our name. They need to get our reader.
Yep.
So, and the ones who are looking for our reader, they find them. So, yes, we like for people to understand what we're saying, but it's not vital. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, sir.
Going back to revenue stream for just a minute, I think it's important to know. In our company, Carol had a prior revenue stream, you could say. She did recipe development, and she did recipe development for about 15 major corporations in America, and it was. This gave us the base of a revenue stream that we were then able to take to a magazine. So I think that's a significant point. And I think another point that we've done, at least, that we think is significant, but quite frankly I often get laughed at about, is starting even in the early days on our digital advertising, we required the advertiser to pay up front. Always. We never put them on the website until we were fully funded. And or did she do a recipe until we were fully funded? It was paid for in advance. And then we always performed. And we always performed at a higher exchange level than what was anticipated. But we carry that forward in the magazine industry as well. All our advertisers pay for their advertising prior to us printing the magazine and putting their ad in the magazine. And it's sort of the reverse of what happens in the world. And we've been laughed at and told we couldn't do it, but we do it every day. And it's one of the tools that we've used to help build our business was having that revenue stream up front.
Mm-hmm. Basic blocking and tackling question. What are you seeing in terms of the economics of print media production? So in printing, distribution, and sounds like you have a nice distribution deal for Simply Gluten Free. Circulation development, audience development, all the usual costs, manufacturing. I think I said that of print production. Obtaining newsstand positions, whatever it is. Are the economics improving, staying the same, becoming more challenging? One reason I mention that is because the distribution, the magazine distributor network, over the last dozen years or so has basically collapsed, and John Harrington can speak to that better than I can. So that's an issue. So you don't have as many options, and prices presumably are going up. You don't have enough, maybe you don't have enough context if you're all startups.
Well, we grew 368% last year.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to think that we're in a negative area where we're doing well, and we anticipate further expansion.
Sure.
Before we reach full market saturation in what we're doing.
Yep. Anybody got any longer? Scott, you might have some context on manufacturing.
What's your question about printing? Is that what your expenses?
Yeah, it could be any of the production-related costs or audience development-related costs.
We found out before everything just tanked. I guess 2009 or somewhere like that. I mean, our printing prices I thought were pretty high. But after our contract was up for the first time ever, I put our magazine out to bid, and our existing or the entity we were publishing with then and we are now came to us and said, okay, and I'm gonna say, here's what we want to pay. And I don't want to pay any paper increases, so don't call me, don't send me any little crappy emails during the year saying you're going to raise my, paper's gone up, so you're going to raise it, this is what we're going to do. And they actually went for it because they were having a tough time as well. Mm-hmm. So our printing prices are probably pretty good right now.
Yep.
Other expenses are about the same they were. We do a very poor job of trying to bring on more subscribers. We need to really work on that in our company.
Yeah. How many? What's your delta?
We got 12,000 paid, and we sell another 4,000 or 5,000 on newsstands.
What's your sub rate?
$26 now. 28, 26.
Profitable?
I'm sorry?
Profitable sub?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All our businesses are pretty profitable.
Yeah, the big magazines typically don't do profitable circulation. It's like a loss
Really?
leader. Yeah, at least that was
No,
the
that's a
model. the
big, that's a
overall.
big profit center for our business, as much as ads.
What, Bob? Yeah, rate base. That's right. They sell to rate base.
That doesn't exist in your panel.
Right.
It shouldn't.
Shouldn't maybe in the other one, in the big magazines either, but that's what they do. But that's more challenged as well. Any other thoughts on the economics of running a print magazine? Anybody? No? Oh, good.
I've noticed that, like Scott, we were able to negotiate print rates down
Yeah.
a lot in the past 2 years from where we originally started out on. But we have noticed our technology pricing
Yep.
to develop different things, that has gone up quite a bit. So
Yeah, it's not cheap.
no. So I think it's just a shift of what's in high demand and what's not in a
Yeah.
lot of cases. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight. I think it's right. Of course, the printers in the room won't be all that thrilled about hearing, our prices went down or they're staying the same since 2009. That's not what they want. But they're also, diversifying and offering those digital services. So, which leads to sort of another question. Do you use your printers for digital magazines, newsletters, CMS, asset management, any of those things?
Should we?
Talk to the printers. Dick Ryan over there. I'm sure they'll say yes.
Tony, I have a question because I don't want the audience to be poisoned with this time-ticking clock about print. How come you all individual publishers, none of you was satisfied with their blog, with their television program? I mean, why did you choose print as a vehicle? And my second question is, how come there is not a single large media company in this country have yet to publish a digital-only magazine and keep it surviving? I mean, we just get today all recipes from allrecipes.com at Meredith, 500,000 out of the box. Bauer launched a weekly magazine. The largest selling monthly on the newsstand is aimed at teenage women, 18 years old, Cosmopolitan. I mean, so where do we get this idea of this, we're on a clock? Which clock?
I want to answer that too, but you guys go first.
I think our own people are feeding us that, Samir. I really do. That we're on the clock, that print's dying, yada, 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 and all that kind of stuff. Our readers won't print. They're not into digital. Like, to me, for our company, digital is just an afterthought. Our readers won't print.
Yeah, us as well. And at first I thought it was my naivete that I was not considering digital as much as I should. Well, if our readers tell us one thing and industry executives tell us another, they're not paying our bills. So I'm listening to the reader.
So from my blog, I was approached by a publisher to do a cookbook, an editor for a major Macmillan press. And, I thought, well, it was flattering, but why? They can get all my recipes for free. And he told me that regardless of what's going on with the, printed books, people still buy cookbooks. So while other book sales were going down, cookbooks were going up. So that was the first little thought. So I published a couple of books, and I don't know, I've almost felt like it was demand. I still love magazines. I don't buy any hardcover real books, novels, but I buy cookbooks, and I still buy magazines. So I figured I can't be the only person in the world that's like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll just say quickly that we are Cake and Whiskey subscribers. Not one woman, when I've been at a conference or an event, has ever said, do you have this digitally? They just want to be able to hold it, and they want to subscribe, and they're going back to their corporations, and they're buying gift subscriptions for their employees, and nobody's saying, like, well, when is the digital issue going to come out? I've never been asked that. They just don't. I mean, an industry type person will ask me that, but never one of our readers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say quickly that with Covey Rise, what our goal is to give that reader an experience, Samir, and not unlike a movie theater. We're similarly priced to what a movie theater ticket would be. But with a digital version, if it's on an iPad, you get an email, it's interrupted. There are all sorts of interruptions, and we want our reader to have an uninterrupted experience of enjoying it, where you shut the door, not let the kids in, and just absorb yourself into the magazine. We want our reader to put themselves into that experience and have a break from their iPad, their iPhone, from TV, from everything. That's what we envision.
Sure.
So we think there's still a reader that appreciates that, and that's who we're going after.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with Samir and all of you. I think that print isn't going to go away, but if you look at the attributes of various media, it's hard to deny the utility of digital stuff. And you could imagine a Covey Rise community where people could, in real time describe their out in the field experiences. They do, and they're going to do that. They're going to enjoy your magazine, but they're going to do that like with this, right? Yeah. Dick, fire away. Yeah, I don't think so either. Yep.
I think we got to expand our vision on what's wrong with our industry.
Yep.
That is not also affecting lots of other industries out there. So it's a macroeconomic question that we're trying to confront. People are buying less print advertising because there's other alternatives, so it's cheaper. Our printed pages, to run paper through our presses, is occurring at a fairly low price right now. That's capacity in the marketplace. Too many printing presses right now. With all that said, at Publishers Press, this past month of October 2013, we used more paper to produce more copies of magazines for our customers than there's only 2 months in the company's history where we've used more paper than just this past month. So that's a pretty good signal, but we're still struggling with pricing for that service. To us, it's an economic question. It's not a question of whether something's dying or it's dead. Our problems are no different than a lot of other industries, and I think our problems are not nearly as negative as the PC industry is experiencing.
Yeah, are we finished? I thought we were going to 11:35, or we good?
No, we good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I want to. You're right, Dick. I think that's true. Although I do think the internet is, one of the handful of most disruptive economic forces in human history. I mean, right? I mean, it has to be. So there is that. And Samir, to answer your question, I think, print media brands that go digital don't usually work, but you do have like the BuzzFeeds of the world that come along and really dramatically change things, and they're the more often than not they're the ones that innovate, and the rest of us have to sort of respond to that. So maybe you're framing the.
No, you are correct, but they are not starting magazines. They are starting a new innovation. I mean, we have a product that works so well, we call it a magazine, it's printed. You want to innovate something, don't replicate that thing and just shove it on your iPad and say, I'll have a digital edition now.
Yeah.
I mean, who created BuzzFeed? Who created Google? Media companies have failed in innovating, and all what they were doing, they were renovating.
Yeah.
We have this magazine, let's put it here and here. So that new launches, those new celebrations. I mean, in October alone, there were 32 new magazines published on a regular frequency, and an additional 80 magazines published as specials or annuals. So I mean, it's before we just like lose track of, yes, we have a lot of problems in our industry, and hopefully this afternoon we'll try to solve some distribution problems, some editorial problems, some advertising problems. But to say that if I am not on all these other digital vehicles, I want to use digital to amplify the future of print. I mean, we started the Magazine Innovation Center here in 09 with that theme, amplifying the future of print in a digital age. We live in a digital age, but like everybody, like David Carey told me at hers, 97% of our people want the printed magazine. Steve Lacey at Meredith, 98% of our people want the print magazine. I mean, and the people who are not interested in print, they have so many other outlets. But let's not write our own demise. I mean, it's like I told the folks in Canada, if you decide to commit suicide, that's great, but don't preach suicide.
Can I just respond to that really quickly? As a publisher, I think that our huge obstacle for us is the advertiser constantly hears digital, digital, digital. And so they're ingrained to think that that's their best option. So we are essentially not only trying to sell Story magazine, we're essentially trying to speak for the whole industry and celebrate print and explain that it is still a valid medium. So it's almost, not only do we have the obstacle of our own magazine, we have to first go in and sell the idea of the magazine in the first place. So it's just really difficult on our end to overcome that.
Yeah, it's always been that way, though. You have to sell the value of the magazine. And I don't think advertisers are being sold a bill of goods either. I think there's, digital has really important attributes that we should be recognizing. Samir also, and I'm not saying the magazine industry is going out of business at all, but you have to pay attention to advertiser trends and user trends, and right now they're declining.
Yeah,
so
but they are not going to digital magazines. I mean, we are losing the advertising, but they are going to the Googles of this world, to the YouTubes of this world. They are not going to digital copies of magazines.
Well, it doesn't matter where they're going because our businesses have to survive, right?
Tony, there's one key word here that I believe is most important, and it's the word marriage. What we owners, executives, editors, business managers must think about these two wonderful mediums is how do we make them complementary? How do we marry them together so that they complement each other and we have a win-win? The digital technologies that we are seeing now, and goodness knows what we'll see in the future, are fantastic. They threaten the heck out of many of us 15 years ago when we had people come in and say, oh, we're going to close your newspaper down and it's all going to go digital. Well, that hadn't happened. What we have been given, however, is an incredible medium that we can build off of and complement our other medium and work with it. So to me, I preach to my people, both on the newspaper side and on the magazine side, marriage, marriage, marriage. Complement, complement, complement. It's nothing but opportunity. It's not a threat, it's an opportunity. Now, the challenge is we've got to be smart enough as managers and as journalists to figure out how to get that done so that it's a win-win for both parties.
And I just wanted to say something. I have a well-monetized website. When the magazine first came out, I started getting emails and comments and, social media stuff from people saying how they loved the ads in the magazine. Never once had I ever gotten a comment saying, hey, I love the ads on your website. At first, I was shocked by the comments. Then I was a little perturbed because I'm editorial. I want them to talk about it. And then finally somebody called and made the comment, so I spoke to them. And in my particular case, every ad in the magazine pertained to them. They loved that. They loved that they weren't looking at a magazine with a piece of cake that they couldn't eat. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting and an interesting comment, because I've never had anybody say they love the ads on my website, but I've had many, many people say they love the ads in our magazine.
Well, that's one of the timeless elements of print, and that's why it works, is because the ads fit the space. They can be inviting and lush and all those things. And everybody knows online advertising doesn't really work that well. So at least traditional online advertising. That's why you have things like native advertising emerging and those kinds of, it's a perennial experiment. Now programmatic is where the big opportunity is, and that's simply where you can track via software what the internet user is interested in. So, for example, actually, Google's did this thing with Hyundai, where they combined Google Earth. They got this database of Hyundai shoppers, because these people, you serve them a cookie and you follow them around. If people visit the Hyundai website, you know they're looking for a Hyundai. And so what they did, they combined that with Google Earth, and they did this thing where the Hyundai drove up into the shopper's driveway in an ad. So yeah, that was pretty cool. But so that's internet advertising. That's kind of interesting. It's more utility-based rather than, aesthetic-based.
I think it's very important that you know who your demographic is. Our demographic is a female, 90%. She's 42 years old, and she has an average income of $76,000. Well, that woman, and she's gluten-free, of course, that woman and wants to spend a little bit more for a healthy diet. That woman reads a magazine. So if you know your demographic, you're not going to get replaced by a digital age or another age or whatever. Speaking to that, we have a daughter. We have a daughter-in-law, 28. She doesn't read magazines on her iTablet. She will some. She'll refer to a recipe on it, but she appreciates magazines as well. So I don't necessarily buy into a generational thing where the younger generation is all coming out with digital usage only. I don't think it's true at all. We see it across the boards. A magazine's a magazine, and people like to pick it up. They like to hold it. They like to read it. They like to spend the half hour, 45 minutes really reading it.
I agree with that, except and I'll get to your question in just one second. Like, my daughter is college age, and she likes Halloween crafting. So she spent the last 5 weeks or so just working up all this stuff in our yard and in the house. And I said, so where are you getting Family Fun? Where are you getting your ideas from? Family Fun's a magazine. And she said, no, I go on Pinterest and I get Family Fun and this magazine and that magazine and that magazine, and they're all free. All the content's free. And I can get people's reactions and people's ideas on how to sort of modify and customize and all that stuff. So point is, it's not all generational, but there's utility in social media that can't be replicated in print, and it's shareable and all those important things. Doesn't mean print's bad or it's going away, but there's different strengths and weaknesses there. So I guess marriage is the right answer. We have a question? We have a couple.
Thank you. In our marriage and working with Ware, we're constantly looking for the best way to preserve the integrity of our print and at the same time enter the digital age and really bring it to the traveler in a fantastic way that will bring them back to us every time they travel. And as a creative officer, what I'm always looking for is how to master the medium so that we don't look elementary in our delivery of that information. And what I find with magazines and books, we do a beautiful job and we've pretty well mastered that. There's always room for improvement. Now it's about this and iPad, et cetera. And to me, what this device does is really provides a picture, and which is worth 1,000 words, as we all know. But it also does an amazing job of video. And so I'd really like to expand a little bit more with your experience with bringing video to the reader and
Y- I would say, in my experience, the Real Food, Real Kitchens, it's set up in a few different ways. It's a TV series on traditional television. We also have a digital distributor that distributes to Hulu, is where we're located right now. And the print element allows me to sort of expand on the storytelling end of things. I can, I don't know, tell the story about a family in a traditional dish or a food-owned family business a little bit deeper than I can in the television series, which is more, it's faster paced. We're in the kitchen for the most part, focusing just on the cooking portion, not so much on the story, which is really important to me, the story part of it. So I, just by luck and by my career, have gotten experience producing television and also writing and editing for magazines. I was a lifestyle editor at 17. I was fashion and beauty editor for In Touch Weekly when they first started. So I've had experience in both. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question properly or not, but sure.
For a company like ours who is developing a video version of our information,
Mm-hmm.
what is the best outlet for that to put it out so people get it other than our own website? And then the second question, perhaps it's something to discuss over lunch,
Yeah.
is the production aspects of video.
Sure. Yeah, that's involved, the production part. It's not as difficult as you would think. But I think the best outlet and the way I've found to get it out there further than just, because you can go on to realfoodrealkitchens.com and you can watch all 13 episodes of our first season, but it's fed through Hulu. So you can get it in many different places. And I think the best outlet that I found was through my digital distributor, which is Film Buff or Cinetic Media, based out of New York. And they're the ones that have given the platform to me to get the series really out there. It's at Hulu right now, but not exclusively, and they distribute internationally, digitally as well. So the hope is to expand on that distribution. And the digital video and digital television is in a great place right now to me because I can produce shows where in the past I would have to approach a television network and pitch it and sell it. There's now all these great digital outlets like Hulu, like professionally produced YouTube shows, Roku, whatever your digital outlet might be. So it was through those partnerships that allowed me to get my series out there a bit further.
Okay, we have a question over here.
It might feed off of some of this question I have, a little bit of what you just mentioned. And Mr. Morris, the analogy of marriage, and which is a great analogy. But for being a new magazine startup, I am nervous just about the courtship phase, basically, because print seems, in my point of view, starting a new magazine yet to be issued, and will be issued next year. It's so concrete and easy for me. And then when I look at the digital world, where I want to go to, I go, well, do I kiss a bunch of frogs or do I join eHarmony? You know, where do I educate myself as someone who's not professionally experienced or trained in the world of digital beyond just your basic social media experience? Where would you advise any of you say, you know, we looked at these groups, we knew how to hire people with these types of qualifications. I used this company that gave me a great crash course in a lot of these things, so I know how to be more educated in approaching the world of eventually walking down the aisle with digital. So can anyone maybe speak to that, the new launches?
One thing to kind of piggyback on the last three things that we have found is that the difference for us and our reader between print and digital is utilitarian versus experiential. So Pinterest, Facebook, digital e-newsletters, those for us have become very resource driven. There's something that you can use in this piece right now because of the format of the digital concept, which is fast, immediate, short, give it to me right now. Whereas in print, we've tried to create an experience. We want people to sit down. We want to bring back long form and run 14 pages or 17 pages on venture capital. We want to do those things. And so in doing that, I think the first question that we had to ask is, what do they need, or what are they asking for? And then what is the best platform to give that to them on? So we're not going to run 5 pages of a resource guide in the magazine knowing that in 3 months it's going to be a dead issue because half the companies have changed already. But we will put that online because when someone is Googling small business startup, we want them to find it. So it's become a very distinct shift between what is utilitarian, what can they use right now to build, the Halloween yard, as opposed to, I just want to talk about like what is the background of this topic and really experience the piece. So
as far as learning, I have been undereducated and underqualified for everything I've ever done. But what I have is an ability to work hard and persistence, and I'm not afraid to be stupid. So I ask questions. I mean, people who are doing it, I talk to me like I'm 5. Explain this to me. It's not important to me that people think I'm smart. It's more important that I learn something. So, I hope that helps.
Question? Can you, I'm sorry, so maybe stand up so everybody can hear, speak louder.
I'm waiting for another student here, of Dr. Husney's. I have a question for you, Megan, and maybe some of you can also give some input. I really love magazines that celebrate diversity, but sometimes you get the feel with all the talk about a target audience that maybe people want to stick to people who are like them. But your magazine, obviously has a lot of diversity among your women who are from all different backgrounds and cultures. Did you feel like you had to put a lot of effort to get people to buy into that idea and that diversity, or do you think that people are just naturally moving toward being more curious about people who aren't like them?
I love that question. I'm glad you picked up on that because that's one of my mantras with Cake and Whiskey, and it has been from day one, is I think by nature I'm just an includer, and I love all sorts of people. So the idea of ever targeting certain people for my publication just seemed bizarre. And yeah, I mean, in our summer issue, we had an 85-year-old rancher who's been running a cattle farm her entire life. And then we had, like a 20-year-old eco-friendly model in New York City. And what I love is that we can bring all that together. And honestly, it is difficult when I get into meetings with, corporations that we might partner with. They're like, well, who's your target audience? I'm like, well, I don't have one and I don't want one. But I think they understand that when I actually can explain to them, it's, our readers are just women, and they're men too, but just people. Like, we're all just people. And it is hard, I think, I understand their point of view. And I mean, yeah, I can give them numbers of, a lot of our women are very successful and they do hold the purse strings and they make the purchasing power, decisions, whatever. Like, I can go into that whole thing with them. But I think, and I do see this with other publications as well, the newer ones, is I think we are broadening our perspective on, like, we're getting to write the rules, I think, in many ways. Maybe that's a little brash to say, but these new publications, a lot of us don't come from this journalism background and we don't come from the industry. And so we're kind of getting to rewrite some of the rules and say, hey, maybe we don't have to have like this super specific target audience. Maybe we can just, make it more open to anybody to read. And that's why I even back the system to even say we're a women's publication, because we have lots of guys that read it. They're like, Cake and Whiskey, heck yeah. And then they open, they're like, this is awesome. And so, again, yeah, I think it'll be something that we continue to get into these discussions, but I always stand firm and hold to what our mission and vision is, and it seems to be working for us.
So great answer, and I'm sorry to cut it short. We are out of time, and I want to stick to the clock. Not that we're on a clock, Samir.
We make an exception for this thing.
Yeah, and so This was intended to be, my instructions were to do a celebration of print launches, and I have to say, you're all inspiring, diverse, wonderful businesses, and I'm sure you're all already successful, and you'll continue to succeed. So congratulations, and thank you to this panel. They were terrific.